Hi friends, and welcome to Pro Tools Answers, where we discuss, demonstrate and elaborate on your Pro Tools questions put to us in the official Avid Pro Tools support forum on Facebook. My name is Dave Phillips, audio engineer and lecturer for Point Blank Music Schools in the UK, and joining me as ever are two of the nicest and smartest fellows in audio engineering. Please welcome Anders from Tonkraftwerk in Austria and lecturer for Siegen University in Germany.
Hello.
And also we have Andy Hageman, the master of all master instructors and Avid's audio curriculum manager based all the way over in Tokyo. Hello, Andy.
Konbanwa.
So if you guys are new to the channel and you want to develop your Pro Tools skill every week with us at Pro Tools Answers, we'd love you to hit that subscribe button. We are collecting subscribers right now, so please join our collection. And if you get something out of this video, please hit like. And if you fancy following us and our thoughts, you can head over to protoolsanswers.com and follow our blogging, where we regularly put out our thoughts. And
if you subscribe on the Pro Tools Answers website, you can be included in a weekly newsletter that lets you know what's coming up.
I'll just splice that in. That sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, today's subject has been inspired by Nick's question. And his question is this. Does anybody know if it's possible to have a fixed input for new audio tracks? E.g., is there a way for newly made audio tracks to always have input 3 as an input? And this is a really interesting question. Now, my initial reaction to this question was to jump on track presets, but at the time, I couldn't remember whether track presets actually save the input assignments. So I kind of went into hack mode when I was thinking about this. And my first tongue-in-cheek suggestion was to basically delete everything in I/O setup that wasn't the input that you would want, so that every time you create a new track, it automatically defaults to that specific input that you wanted to work to, because that's the only input that's available to you in I/O setup.
But it's actually a very smart hack there, Dave.
It's a little bit simple.
It's like taking Thor's hammer to the problem, though, right?
So it is a hack. But then I thought a little bit further into this. And the rule is that if I was just to create a new track here, I'll just get rid of that one. I'll double click on my edit window, and it brings up basically the first input that is at the top of your I/O window. And that happens even if we go through Shift Command N, just click create. If there are no tracks there, or tracks with no selected inputs, it will just take whichever input is at the top of your I/O setup. So I thought, why not? If you want input 3 to be your default input, because there's no way to do that on the I/O setup. We can do it with outputs, can't we, Anders? We can have specific outputs and specific buses selected, defined to be automatically selected when we create new tracks, but we can't do it with inputs. But if I figured if we move number 3 to the top, we'll get rid of that track. I'll double click. It makes input 3 our automatically selected input, which is lovely. But it kind of stops there, because the moment that you want to create a second one, Pro Tools will notice that there's a previous input selected, and it will assume that you don't want to be recording from the same input. So it will create the next input in the list, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of a hack that will work for a bit. You can make it work if you deselect the input and then double click. You know, as long as Pro Tools doesn't see the same input selected somewhere else in the session, it will automatically make that happen. But this double clicking method, I mean, it takes its cue as to the track format from previously selected tracks. If you've not previously created any tracks, sorry, it will take a mono. But let's say I create a stereo audio track and then continue to do the same thing using double click. it will create me stereo versions. So this is kind of a hack that has just a small amount of mileage to it. It doesn't go all the way to achieving what we want to achieve, which is where the track presets comes in.
Yeah, track presets is the way to go here, I think, Dave. Do you want me to talk a little bit about track presets?
That would be great. I just realized
Okay.
I didn't share my screen.
As always.
Right?
You need to tell me. I've got limited.
What? Break the tradition? Come on.
Man. I've got a brain like a Pentium 1, you know. You need to remind me of this stuff.
So this is a very simple session here, and I have this pop piano part here that I will use as a template for my track preset. And I think the question was how to make a new track always to default to input 3. So I actually have to use a mono track, because else I won't be able to do this.
Yes.
So I'll use this instead. I have a track here called my input, and it's set to the input of A3, which is my third input. And just to make things a little bit more exciting, I will just put in some effects here. Let's do DIN 3 compressor, and I'll also do a send to my reverb here. So I'll just send that to my reverb track like so, and put up some volume as well. So track presets are, if you want to create one, just right click on your track name and select save track preset. And I will you get to choose under what category you can save this. So you can have a lot of different categories for different stuff. I will just save it into my Anders category right here, and I'll call this my input, which is what I want to call it.
Descriptive.
It's descriptive, yeah. And this is a nice one. I can also include audio and MIDI clips. So if I have something on there that I want to reuse, or if I don't want to reuse it, but sometimes I want to, I could include all the audio or MIDI as well, but I will not, because I don't have anything. And as you can see here also, it will populate tags for this track presets by default, but you can also insert your own, and this guy is where the magic happens, track data to recall. Basically you can set what track data should be recalled on this track, and you can even save very cool stuff like tempo, a meter map, key signatures, markers, memory locations, your window configurations. So instead of having to go in and get those from import session data, you can save those as a track preset.
Because this is really important when you want to make all of your songs the same key and the same tempo.
Yeah, but talking about markers and memory locations are, I mean, all pop songs, or most pop songs, have the same basic structure. So if you've spent a lot of time creating your markers and memory locations and combining those with track show hide statuses and window configurations for different stages of the mix, only some tracks or something like that, you can reuse those as a track preset. But I'll just click OK and OK this as well. So if I delete my my input track right now, so I can show you how to recall this, whenever I create a new audio track right now, I could, instead of selecting an audio track, I can go to my track presets, and in the Anders category I now have my input as a track preset, and when I click create, it will basically get all of these things here. It's called my input. The input is actually set to A3, and I also have my inserts and sends in place. So that's the most basic track preset configuration, how to create one and how to recall one when you create a new track.
Now, let me jump in, because sometimes when you start creating track presets, your organization starts to be kind of important, right? And I've gotten a lot of questions from people. It's like, where are the track presets? So let me share my screen with you real quick. Just to follow up on what Anders was talking about. Where the heck am I going to go? There I am. I've already called it up here. And this is Mac. It is similar, but obviously not exactly the same on a PC. But on your Mac, in the users folder, you go to your user, Documents, Pro Tools, and then down in Track Presets. Now, inside of Track Presets, by default, you're going to see just Pro Tools' own default folder hierarchy. And those folders are the categories, okay? Now, what I did was I created my own structure here, so I wanted to keep the Avid stock ones, but I don't use the Avid stock ones all that much. I use my own track presets, and I created subfolders in here. And so, and if you want to really manage and get, you know, specific with your organization, you kind of have to do it in Finder. And like I said, this is the road to that place. And what this means to you is, if you take a look, I've got track presets, and I've got 3 different columns over here, 3 different subfolders, and then I've got different subfolders within those. And inside the Pro Tools Carbon, I just have a whole bunch of track presets. Here's what you're going to see in Pro Tools as a result of that organization. So I'm going to go ahead and do kind of what Anders did. Create a new track, Shift Command N, the shortcut that has a lot of functionality. And if you go here to your different track types, there's your different track types. At the very bottom, you can see track presets, and there are my 3 initial subfolders. So there's, and you can see here, there's the other subfolders within Avid. In Carbon, there's nothing, right? And you'll see what happens in a second. In here, I've got my own things, and I'm going to just go ahead with, oh, I don't know. Let's see, mixing and mastering. And what I'm doing is I'm opening up, this is a folder, okay, called mixing and mastering. And inside of Finder, it would be this right here. And so you can see inside the track presets, Andy's track presets, mixing and mastering, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different track presets. And then if you go into Pro Tools, you're going to see here's that folder, and then here are the different 7 track presets. Now, one of the things about track presets that I know Anders was just about to say is that track presets can be more than one track. In fact, one of the things that I've got here is a bunch of folder tracks that's probably one of the most convoluted assemblages of left and right and mid-side chains that you can possibly imagine. And there you go. That's one track preset. And track presets can even include folder tracks, so that you can collapse and expand anything you want to. So just so you know that where you store them by default is there, and if you want to take control over your organization as your track presets gets more and more complex, that's how you would do it. Can I ask a quick question, Andy?
Sure. Is there an advantage to using track presets over session templates?
They're kind of the same thing, right? One of the things that it's track presets and session templates are definitely cousins, right? And it really comes down to a different workflow. If I'm working inside of a session already and I've already started my work, then session templates, the only way that I could really use session templates would be to import session data and then navigate it over to that session template, which is a little bit more work than I'm prepared to do, right? And so, but they're definitely, I mean, in fact, they have the same extension, right? They're just in a different location, right? So I'll use both of them, by the way. So I've got I'll start off with, for example, a session template. So open and create a new session from a template, and there's again another location with its own folder hierarchy that you can take control of. And by the way, it's right in. I know we're at the risk of running off, but your session templates are in that same Pro Tools subfolder. So there's your test session templates, and you can similarly organize them, you know, and take control over how this is going to support your own workflow.
And seeing the folder hierarchy means that you can get rid of stuff that you don't want to see as well.
Completely. Oh, and like I said, the track presets, and this is just me. I don't want to delete everything that Avid's been good enough to throw in there for free, but it's just not, my own track presets are things that I've specifically created for myself. I want to have access to them, but I don't want them to be in a flat list, right?
You can do similar to what you do with plugins. You can move them to a temporary folder just to get them out of your eye line, and then if you want any of them, you can always bring them back in.
And by the way, if I was to create, and I'll do this with track presets, but session templates would be the same. If I went in here and created a new folder, whoops.
That's what we can put on the back of Andy's hockey jersey.
Trash me, right? And now if I go over here into this right here, where did I put it? Oh, you know what? It has to have something in it. I think that's what it is. Let's try that again. There you go.
Devil's in the details.
Pro Tools is smart enough, obviously, to know that if it's an empty folder, there's nothing for it to recall.
Yeah, Andy, I think track presets is just such a fast way to work, and they are once you've done a track preset, you don't have to use it the way that it's actually been made. So, for instance, if I wanted to recall a track preset for a track that I already have made, like this is my Audio 1 track, and I can recall everything from that particular track preset by right-clicking on this track, the Audio 1 track, and say recall track preset, and use the same here for my input, and it will get all of that data, the same plugins and same sends and the inserts as well, which is okay, but you can also choose what track data you want to recall. So if I do another track here, another mono track, and on this mono track I just wanted to recall the inserts from this track preset, I can just right click directly on an insert, not right click, just click on it sorry, and recall inserts and use the same track preset again, which only recalls that particular insert and nothing else. And I could do the same also for the send, just recalling that.
It gets even better.
Yeah.
Because let me show something real quick. Can you stop sharing?
Sure.
This is the thing that I love. So I've got, for example, I've got this empty audio track, and let's say it's a dialogue track. Let me name my track because there we go. So let's say I had channel strip in here, and I had EQs and everything set up the way I like it. I can import the presets or import the inserts without disturbing the insert that already exists. So what you do is you click on the insert position where you want to start loading, right? So let's say, and just for display's sake, insert A is my channel strip, and let's say that I've done something specific to it. Subtle. You know what that is? That's Grammy. Right there. And I want to leave B empty for whatever reason. And then I'm going to go to C, and I recall inserts from track presets, and I'll go to, because it's dialogue, Vox, thick box. Great. And then it took that preset from something else, and it will also, by the way, if you wanted to, let's go with something that has a little bit more stuff in it. If you try to overwrite, it will tell you this operation will change one or more of the existing inserts. It'll change this channel strip because that's where I'm starting it. And if I go ahead and do that, then it changes it to whatever else without disturbing what you don't want disturbed. It's awesome. It's a great implementation of this.
That's really good. Can I do one more? So there's one more way to do this, similar way that Andy did, but where you really have exact control of over what you're doing. So if you have a track and you want to use some of the stuff that's saved into track preset, You can hold Control on your Mac or the Start key on a PC and right-click on the name and select Recall Track Preset and use the same track preset or whatever track preset you want, and that will bring up the Track Data to Recall window, where you can really select the stuff that you really want and not the stuff that you don't want to use. And once you've done that, you just hit OK, and it will recall only those features from that track preset.
There's one thing I want as an anecdotal thing to add, and this is a friend of the show. This is a hello to a friend of the show, Mr. Alex Brook, who we all know, wonderful person, not too bright.
Phenomenal drinker. Phenomenal drinker.
Phenomenal drinker. No, I was chatting with him because he lives here in Tokyo. I was chatting with him, and he was talking about session templates, just as a kind of, like I said, they're related things. And he was saying, yeah, I want to create a session template, but my session's not perfect yet. I want to get it perfect and then create a session template. And you don't have, if you wait for something to get perfect, in my book, you're delaying something perhaps forever, right? Because it's never going to get perfect. But let's say, for example, that you, just for the sake of argument, let's say that I create a new, go ahead, here, create a new track. See what I just did? I just changed my,
flipped your camera.
Because I was, flipped my camera.
You flipped your camera.
All right, so I have to go back and zoom and then do boink. So now if I go over here and I create, I'll recall a track preset, and I'll just go with Vox again. And I'll choose vocal chain because I know that it has a lot of stuff in it. And there we go. And so there's my track. Okay. And you can see here, there's my different inserts. Okay. Now, let's say for whatever reason that I wanted, that over time, I get this as good as I think it's going to get. But you know what? I found out that, if you put this after and I change this, it's a refinement. Let's say for whatever reason, this is a step forward and I want to replace this. It's super easy to do. All you have to do is you're going to right click on the track. So you don't have to, you don't have to do anything special. You just go to this track, save track preset. You go into the same place that it was before. So you go to your track presets, Vox stuff, and then you name it the same thing. Actually, I think you can pull it from the menu. There you go. You pull it from the menu, and then you go to vocal chain, and you can add whatever you want to in here. When I click OK, it's going to ask me if I want to replace it or not, in which case I do. And now when I replace it, I basically refined that track preset, and I could do exactly the same thing with session templates as well. And I think I myself have found that process of creating something good and then progressively getting it better and better by saving it over itself keeps things from getting overly complex, and it also just keeps my session templates and my track presets getting better and better.
Totally agree with you, Andy. That's a great workflow to do that. And I mean, there's a real chance also to overcrowd the track preset list or the template list, to have too many variables. But if you stay organized and have clear descriptive names, you can only win using these. And the speed of access to track preset is you can be extremely fast recording a lot of data at once. And as you demonstrated, track presets can contain more than one channel. You could even build a mix template as a track preset.
Yeah. So very cool. So let's bring it back down around to Sebastian's question, because I think there's one other thing that we could potentially deal with. He wanted to always select one specific input. Now, if we're moving from playback engine to playback engine, is that going to have an effect?
It could. Right. So if his input is going to be a physical input, and that physical input doesn't exist with whatever interface he's using, then yes. That's obviously not going to be a problem with buses, but it could be a problem.
Of course,
with
as he's
inputs.
using input number 3, and if he only goes for an interface in some other studio where he starts working, and that only has 2 inputs, you cannot use input 3, of course.
Cool.
That's right.
Very good discussion, guys. Thank you very much for talking about the track presets. Hopefully that will provide a good a good solution for a few people. So thank you to all of you guys for watching us. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do. And if you've liked what we've been talking about today, please hit like. If you fancy heading over to protoolsanswers.com and following our thoughts and blogs and whatnot over there, you can head over, hit subscribe. We're also on Facebook as well. And hopefully we'll be able to meet you guys, interact with you guys over on those channels as well. So all it leaves me to say is thank you very much to Anders.
Thank you.
And thank you to Andy.
You betcha.
My name's Dave. This is Pro Tools Answers, and we're out.